Check this out. Wu-Tang, the saga continues. It's all happening.
Static Selector.
Wu-Tang season's in the air, and there's a lot going on with the clan. Wu's mystery project, Wu Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, is allegedly back on the market. Supervillain Martin Shkreli said he planned to sell the work of art for $1 million, about reportedly half of what he paid for it. Great investment. Shkreli was convicted of fraud in April. He faces years in prison. He was actually out on a $5 million bond, but was sent to jail for threatening Hillary Clinton on Facebook. All of this complicated things for Matthew M80 Markov, who was making a public attempt to acquire the project from Shkreli. Markov explained it all in an interview with Jude and I on the All Out show this week. Links in the description. It's another unexpected wrinkle in rap's now most mysterious project. Also, if you want to learn more about Wu Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, Silver Rings explains it all in his new book, Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, the untold story of Wu-Tang Clan's $1 Million Secret Album, the devaluation of music, and America's new Public Enemy #1. That's a long-ass title. Links in the description as well. Now there's another Wu project on the way, Wu-Tang the Saga Continues. This one's produced by clan member Mathematics, and judging by the first two releases, Lesson Learned and People Say, it sounds like quintessential Wu. Here's a clip from People Say. Roll the clip out.
In my heyday, I probably put the product in my sock. Ain't no vacate. The props become a problem when it's hot. Mayday, mayday, but no charge. I'm nutty with the bars, that's a payday. So, bruh, this ain't even a bar, this is AA.
Ew, I love it. I haven't looked forward to a Wu project this much since Cuban Links 2. Modern classic. The project arrives on October 13th. RZA and Mathematics have been hitting the media scene. I sat with Mathematics for a couple of hours. He talked about how it felt receiving RZA's full blessing on the project, how Method Man played a major role on this one, the inspiration he received from Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001. All that's included in AFH's Last 7, counting down the top stories over the last 7 days. Link in description. Mathematics has been with Wu since the beginning. He designed the iconic W logo. In our conversation, we also talked about how he found knowledge of self, which you'll see in an upcoming edition of Marginalized. This part stuck with me though. He's talking about hip hop and music class when he was growing up. This is interesting. Ak.
Hip hop was a vehicle for us as far as even like when hip hop first started, it was expression. You know, a lot of people don't know this, right? But Ronald Reagan, in the 70s, right, we had music programs in schools. I know I can speak for New York. New York had music programs, but I think because Ronald Reagan cut it out, I'm pretty sure it was nationwide. But yeah, it was nationwide because this is how a lot of bands got together because they learned how to play instruments in school. I remember I was getting ready to go to junior high school. I'm like, oh, I'm getting ready. I'm gonna learn this instrument. I'm gonna learn, you know, I'm gonna play the guitar and all that. He cut the music programs. So there was no more music in schools. So we was left like, you know, the only thing they left was band. They cut out the music program that taught you how to play the piano, that taught you how to play. Now, you know, they teach you a few notes on a saxophone or on a trumpet or how to hit a snare drum. That's it.
Math is correct about music classes being cut in the 1980s. Every state handles resource allocation differently, but when revenue's down, programs get slashed, and fine arts programs are usually one of the first to go. This has been a consistent trend line over the last 40 years. The New York Times in 1993. In New York City, a mecca for artists, 2/3 of public elementary schools have no art or music teachers. Many highly regarded programs are suffering, including the selective admissions high schools for which New York was once renowned. Not only have teachers and classes been eliminated, but even supplies and instruments for after-school activities like band or theater productions are gone. From the Washington Post in 2012, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, more than 95% of school-aged children are attending schools that have cut funding since the recession. Schools in wealthier neighborhoods that face budget cuts were able to make up for their losses through private donations, while schools in impoverished communities have not. This is from the NPR in March of this year. Trump's budget plan cuts funding for arts, humanities, and public media. Wu-Tang, saga continues. The logic behind cutting fine arts programs and music programs is that math and reading are primary. Unfortunately, programs like Common Core and No Child Left Behind emphasize standardized tests over actually teaching, which doesn't give teachers a great reason to do anything other than teach what's on the exam. And arguably, we're seeing the downstream effects of cutting music programs in new ways. Hip-hop just became the #1 genre in America, for example. Of course, rock music would fall from the #1 spot. When students aren't given a chance to fall in love with the guitar, for example, they change the world with sounds created at the lunch table.
We started doing this, or beatboxing and rhyming, expressing how we felt through rhyming, or when we was writing graffiti on the wall. This is all forms of expression. So we took that and we started to get our message across through the music. It's like, if I could teach you, everybody loves music, you know. I remember when they were saying hip hop is a phase, it ain't gonna be around, but it's still around.
I love how he sets the scene right there. The beating on tables, the graffiti, the forms of expression created through a lack of access. Ironically, New York and California are two of the worst states when it comes to public schools with fine arts programs. Think about this. Hollywood and Broadway and the music industry and little funding for fine arts. You can't make this stuff up. Georgia passed new legislation this year in support of its booming music industry, all trap everything, and yet the state still faces budget shortfalls in the arts. All kinds of studies have been done that show students learn creativity, confidence, nonverbal communication, perseverance, problem solving through the arts, all things more vital now as technology automates more of our lives in the future as well, and yet we still cut arts programs first, and there hasn't been a national appetite to fight this unfortunate trend line. We'd rather fight over our favorite sports teams. Whether sports is a great unifier or a great divider, it's part of the fabric of our nation, and we invest a lot of public dollars into sports programs, specifically football and basketball. This blew my mind, actually. Wall Street 24/7 ran a list of the highest paid employees in each state, public employees. In 40 of our 50 states, the highest paid public employee is either a football coach or a basketball coach. Look at this chart. Texas, football coach. North Carolina, basketball coach. Wisconsin, tie, basketball and football coach. Connecticut, women's basketball coach. Pump fake. Look at the Dakotas, spending all that money on med school deans, looking all anti-American. But that's how fanatical we are about sports. The same thing happens on a professional level. Cities building new stadiums for pro sports teams, giving them huge tax breaks in exchange for low-wage part-time jobs, insane ticket prices, terrible traffic, and boatloads of local pride. Teams will often hold a city hostage under terrible lease agreements, which is what happened in Arizona when the mayor of Glendale tried to renegotiate the craptastic deal the city had with the hockey team, the Coyotes. The Coyotes threatened to leave if it didn't get its way, and this chick ain't have time for that.
Because I support this team. It's you that doesn't support any sport in this city. Not football, and certainly not hockey. What you're doing is childish, it's pathetic, and it's just disrespectful.
Jesus! Never come between a girl and her Coyotes. She's super duper serious. We all are. MIT professor Noam Chomsky, he's talked about this a lot. He has a unique take on our obsession with pro sports.
Professional sports are a way of building up jingoist fanaticism. You're supposed to cheer for your own team. Just to mention something from personal experience, I remember very well myself when I was, I guess, a high school student, sudden revelation, you know, when I asked myself, why am I cheering for my high school football team? I don't know anybody on it. If I met anybody on it, we'd probably hate each other. You know, why do I care whether they win or if some guy a couple blocks away wins? This idea of cheering for your home team, which you mentioned before, that's a way of building into people irrational submissiveness to power, you know, and it's a very dangerous thing. And I think that's one of the reasons it's such a big, it gets such a huge play.
The point is this: I'm a diehard Niners fan back when I was watching the NFL. I'm a diehard Chicago Bulls fan, a diehard Duke Blue Devils basketball fan. I hopped on all bandwagons in 1990 when I moved to Charlotte, and I never hopped off. I'm also a J.O. Man Patriot and a Wofford Terrier. Fight me. Because those are my teams, and I love my teams more than every other team. And I don't care that much if my team's got a bunch of criminals on it. I don't care that much if my team gets caught cheating, because you're either with us or you're with the enemy. G.I. Joe, real American hero, Thundercat, 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 ho. Sport does a great job of reinforcing dichotomy, black versus white, city mouse versus country mouse, us versus them, all things permeating our national discourse. Art is about nuance. We ain't got time for that. But can we ever achieve victory if we only care about winning? I don't have the answers to these questions.
Static selector.
I know it's Saturday, it's all happening. Thank you guys for rocking with us each and every week. I hope you enjoyed the piece. Make sure you leave your comments in the comments section. We give away free t-shirts to the dopest comments, most insightful comments, most hilarious comments. Big shout out to Drew. He won last week's contest. We have your shirt in the mail, so look out for that. But what do you guys think about this topic? I mean, is there a possibility that we could look at things as in a micro context so much that we forget what the macro is all about? Or we find ourselves in conversations where we're really just saying things, just trying to win, more so than looking out for what's best for us and the people we care about most? Maybe. Let us know in the comments section. Also, let us know what you think about what you've heard from Wu-Tang Saga Continues so far. I'm serious when I say I'm really looking forward to this project. And the conversation with mathematics is dope. That's on the way as well. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow @TheCompanyMan on everything. Hit that bell. Hit that bell. It's all happening.
Music draws people in. If you got a message and this is the better, you know, because through Wu-Tang, a lot of people, they get educated, you know, and that's why you have to embrace that. You can't fight that. I mean, you know, so to me, there's no restriction on, you know, on the message.